Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fiction Game. On our second installment of our second campaign, The Kingdoms of Eastbrook Mall, we return to our heroes, Irish Gambino, as played by Sam, Marco, played by Miles, and Jeff, played by Hayden. As a quick recap, let's talk briefly about the Oath of the Dawn. In this new, this strangely shrunken world, there is an oath which each of the territories and the kingdoms of the Brooklands follows. An oath made of 3 tenets, and now I will read you those tenets, so you're a little more up to speed about what exactly is expected of you. The first tenet: the old world and its ending will not be discussed under an open sky, nor in any group in which there is an unconsenting party. Basically means you have to be inside and everyone has to agree that you're talking about the old world, then you can talk about it. It's forbidden to talk about it at other times. The second tenet: the squabbles of the old world will be left behind. Within the Brooklands, no hatred shall arise due to race, gender, sexuality, physical appearance, or pre-dawn identity. The whole point, that the sort of originating thought around the Oath of the Dawn, the whole point of having this oath was to acknowledge the fact that the world had sort of started over, and that the world is drastically different now, and though we're living in like the same area, the rules have changed. And so as an acknowledgement of that, they figured, hey, if we're rebooting society, let's not do all the bad shit that society did all the time. Let's just not do that anymore. So that second tenet, squabbles of the old world will be left behind. And finally, the third tenet: all survivors of the Dawn have a right to their own rebirth. Upon taking a new name for the Dawn, any survivor will no longer be bound by the identity or actions of their past. So that was another thing that they figured, hey, in this transitory state, a lot of bad stuff happened. That was a huge reason that people decided to separate this idea of the new world from the old, was that transitory state led to a lot of violence and a lot of panic, as people were suddenly unable to be safe in a lot of situations, unable to have access to important resources, because even if you were on the other side of the mall from the food court, that distance is suddenly like 8 miles for you. So a lot of bad stuff happened, and that was a big reason for the Oath of the Dawn, was just to kind of reboot. So, it's important that we talk about the Oath of the Dawn, because we're about to talk about your backstories, and this is why we're not doing it in character. So, each of you, there are a couple questions about each of your individual character backstories that I wanted to bring up, but it's very hard to improvise a question right after asking it, so I'm going to ask all 3 questions and then come back around to the first person I asked the question, so that you have just a moment to think about it. So the first question I have for Jeff: Hayden, in creating Jeff's backstory, the core tenet you wanted to focus on was a sort of reflection of Marco's story, that Marco was a kid who was at the mall and had lost his parents. He's a grown man now, but back then, the reason you have traveled together for so long is you were a parent who was suddenly not connected to his child. You mentioned that child would be a man grown by now, it being 5 years since this event. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say no shrinking would, like no confusing apocalypse situation would keep Jeff from trying to find his child. So, but I can only see 2 things that could have happened then. Did Jeff leave the Brooklands a long time ago to find his child and eventually found his way back to the Brooklands? Or did he receive word that it was too late before he had the chance to leave the Brooklands in search of his child? We'll come back to you.
How much? Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah, go for it.
Sorry, real quick. Was the question how much like artistic license can you take in making stuff up? As much as you would like. I think one of the big things that's going to help the sense of immersion and help you guys feel free to make in-character decisions without knowing every world-building detail is you guys each get a little bit of shared ownership in this world. And so if you need to take some creative liberties and say, this weird thing happened, does that work? You can, I will tell you if that conflicts with pre-existing world building, but most likely you are good to take a little bit of creative license in how you approach these questions. Marco, your first backstory question. Marco is the greatest flossbowman in the Brooklands. As discussed last time, you chose the character building options flossbowman and specialist, which let you kind of double down on something and be like the premier expert. Marco is the greatest flossbowman in the Brooklands. And quick backstory note, that was proven in last year's tourneys. The different high courts occasionally hold tournaments, and the Court of Stars held a tourney that had an archery event, and you dominated. My question that you get to help me come up with the answer to is, who is Marco's greatest rival? Surely they know one another and they likely have a relationship of some kind. Are you friends with your greatest rival? Is your greatest rival a romantic interest? Or is your greatest rival your sworn enemy who you would do anything to fight?
Yeah, go on. Keep going.
Yeah. We'll come back. Yeah. And finally, Irish Gambino's first backstory question. Irish Gambino is Sam's character for this campaign. The Razoring Order, the knighthood, which you joined to get that blade forged from the razors of Greenwall and all that. The Razoring Order works via apprenticeships. It's got that like apprentice journeyman master situation, and you are now a journeyman, which is why you are free to go wherever you want and give your sort of knighthood services to whoever you want. But that does mean that when you were an apprentice, someone was your master, your mentor, in learning the ways of the Razoring Order. What was that relationship like, and is that person still alive? Think about that as we come back up to Jeff. Do you have do you have the basis that you'd like to lay out for Jeff's backstory concerning his long-lost child?
Yeah. Jeff never left because it wouldn't have done anything, because the son passed away many years before. And it was really sad. So Jeff was very dedicated and very successful in his job. He was the principal chemical engineer at like a biotech company, like a biotech startup that he grew, and like tons of really cool like medical advancements, but wasn't very present in his home life. And his son in his mid to late 20s kind of just took a dark turn, and the relationship wasn't, it had been strained all the way up through childhood, and Jeff wasn't really able to be there in any meaningful way. And it just kind of, so he doesn't even know until like the last 6 months of the child's life that like where he was or what he was doing, and just got a call one day that was it. So yeah, that's Jeff has never left the mall, because there was nothing he could do. So
heartbreaking. I'm gonna give you a luck point. First luck point of the campaign.
Yeah.
It was all worth it.
Yikes.
I have a follow-up question for that, but we'll come back to that as your second question after we go through this round. Marco, do you have a good answer for that? Read the second one? Yeah. Tell us about Marco's greatest rival.
Okay, greatest rival. I'm gonna say definitely. So did I mention age last time? I said I was like 16 to 18, if I remember right.
Yeah, you said you were like 13, 14 at the time of the event, and so you're 18 or 19 now.
Perfect. Yeah, I wanted to be like a little bit younger, and I wanted the rival to be a lot more like. I definitely think romantic interest, but not necessarily. I'm super keeping it on like the DL in an immature way, like in a way that I'm like slightly toxic about it. Where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be like, yeah, but you're like not that good, you know. Um, I was thinking like the way that Marco would have been brought up would have been what he thought was like a revolutionary style, something that makes me like a cut above the rest is like the dedication to the craft, but also the fact that I can be fast and loose about it. Whereas this person is totally 100% not traditional in every sense of the word, and I think being like a woman in the sport of like bowman, like in the tourneys, I assume would be a little bit of like an upset to be in such a high standing.
Mm.
And I'm like jealous that I didn't get to be that like center spotlight. Like, oh, I wanted to be the upset. That's like what I wanted to have been. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to play in on is like this. It's super competitive. Even while we're like tons of respect, we can work together. But literally everything is a competition, and we're just trying to show that we are the actual best.
Right on, right on. That's a good backstory part. I'm gonna actually. I've just realized it'll give you a little more time to think about these if I just give you your follow up questions first. So Jeff, follow up question to think about while we go to Sam and then back around to you. Um, so yeah, never left the Brooklands because it was too late to do anything. But your backstory from the first episode, you had said that you were there to buy something for your child. Was it something to go on their gravestone, perhaps, or something in remembrance of them? Okay, it sounds like you already have a good answer, but we'll come back around to you. And Miles, for you to think about for the next question from Marco. Marco is a trained Twine Runner, but the Twine Runners did not originate in the Brooklands. They are an order of spies that originated in like as far as you know, like a suburban neighborhood not too far from here. What that means is either Marco left the Brooklands, learned about and from this order, and then came back, or someone from the Twine Runners entered Brooklands for some reason. And while they were there, that's when they taught Marco what they knew. So which of those and any other details that occur to you, that's your next question. And we'll come up to Sam for Irish Gambino's Razoring Order mentor.
Okay, so I'm going to say that my mentor was an aging French fencing champion who had for some reason settled in the area. And he very much has like a Gen X parent attitude about video games. Right after the event, that's all that Irish Gambino wanted to talk about. And like as he was learning like the moves and stuff, he would always like make references to like StarCraft because that was his thing. And like so he got along okay with the guy, but that was like a constant source of stupid conflict.
Mm.
And yeah, the guy's name is Luik.
Luik. Fantastic. Right on. The question for you to think about while we go back through one more round and come back to you. Was Gambino at the GameStop alone, or were you with friends or family when you were there? Because that was your part of the backstory. You were going to the GameStop for the mall. This is another part of we were talking about like shared ownership of the world. I learned very recently about a paradigm that's like when you do world building for a game where people are creating characters, make it very full but not like build a lot of details for the world, but build holes into it so that they can specify what. So I'm very glad I didn't make the whole mall layout because there was not a GameStop in there originally. And so that's that is good to know. There is a GameStop now, and it's been written into the lore. So Back to Jeff. Back to Jeff's very sad backstory. What were you buying for your deceased child?
I was actually, um, I had a big long list of what's it called? Not Secret Santa, but like
White elephant.
not that would be funny actually. No, but it's like it's like they're doing one at my work in real life right now. That it's like a you get a big long list that of toys that basically like an orphanage just asks. Like they just have public lists of like
Mhm.
these would be really nice if anyone could help out. So Jeff just like grabbed this big long list and said, "Son, for this year, I'm just doing this in your honor," and is going toy store to toy store, just filling up this huge. He probably just like has a shopping cart. I don't think that's a real thing in the mall, but he found one and is just getting a bunch of toys for this huge Santa bag to bring to in his son's honor.
That's fantastic. Also a really good one, and I'm going to give you a luck point, which reminds me, I think Miles's like detail about the rival was very good as well. So I'm giving you a luck point as well, Miles. Speaking of, we're coming back around to Miles for Marco's second question about the Twine Runners. Did Marco leave the Brooklands and come back, or did he meet a Twine Runner who came to the Brooklands?
All right. Can I get weird with it? Can I say that the reason I'm not like I'm a really good bowman, but I'm by no means an expert twine runner. Can I have emulated this from somebody, or is this a skill that's like too great to just pick up by studying hard, like without somebody's knowledge?
I think we could say that you reverse engineered the techniques of the Twine Runner, but you would have to have seen them first. So that does still leave the question: was there a Twine Runner who passed through Brooklands and you followed them and copied their strategy fervently in a tiny handheld notebook? Or did you like travel from the Brooklands at one point and were exposed to this kind of exotic, like foreign way of movement and combat, and you thought, I will bring this back and I will be the only one with these secrets in all the territories?
Yeah, definitely would have left, especially like as soon as like the Donald effect happened. First thought is to get the heck out of Dodge, and would have tried to leave to acquire like some sort of more permanent situation somewhere else. Found this kind of like information, was trying to be as discreet as possible, and either would have just like hung around trying to act dumb, or maybe just like in the shadows scribing it as I followed somebody. I'm not quite sure on those details, but to bring it back, like that skill would have been enough that I would have decided that going back was not just like coming back wouldn't have been a problem because I had that skill, and it would have been an advantage for me back in where I came from, like the mall.
Right on. Fantastic. A quick note about what Marco saw after leaving the Brooklands. At least in the surrounding areas, power is much more stratified outside of the Brooklands. That there isn't just like royalty, nobility, and serfdom. There's actually like roaming murder bands. It's gone full like dystopian. Think Raider from Fallout or from Mad Max. That's the level of dystopia and violence that we're looking at. It's kind of Clockwork Orange hyper violence. But especially in the Badlands, like the area just outside of the Brooklands, it's obviously accessible via like parking lot and roads and stuff, but the roads are mostly dominated by packs of wild dogs. Whose owners have shrunk down and aren't able to take care of them anymore, so they're just roaming looking for food. Or murder bands who are just roaming in RC cars with ranged weaponry. And so you just hear the and know that you have to either find shelter or you'll be killed for what you're carrying. It's wild out there. And back up to Sam for Irish Gambino's GameStop story. Were you there alone or with friends or family?
Can I get an exact date on the dawn?
Yes, you can. Let me bring up the session 1 intro. The 26th of November in the year 2021. So this is technically 5 years in our future, but I don't feel like I need to predict technology because I don't think they're coming out with new iPhones after everyone gets apocalypsed. Apocalypsed? Yeah.
Bro, that iPhone mini going crazy.
iPhone thimble. That's the next one. It's like a TV screen. Okay, go on.
So Irish Gambino lived pretty close to the mall, like relatively close, and was anxiously awaiting the release of Halo Infinite. So he had gone there to look at the posters.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And he continues to do so on a yearly pilgrimage. To the very
That's amazing. I'm actually going to say that a select few people from other fiefdoms and baronies and kingdoms join you on that pilgrimage. And it's not like you're like a gathered group of people who is really like official about it, but that GameStop is now unincorporated territory. It's one of just a handful of storefronts that were ransacked and looted so badly that no one like lives there in a permanent sense anymore. They're just wastelands. Yeah, there's just a handful of those, but let's see. Yeah, but so there is a small contingent of people who go with you every year, and you have those connections that like a handful of people, like one of the Victorians, and a handful of people at the Architects Guild, and one or two at the Scholars Guild, and all of these different areas. You have that like shared secret bond.
Every time I'm going to point out to anyone who will listen that I'm a part owner of GameStop.
Fantastic. You were still holding as of November 26, 2021? You held the line?
Anyone who understands knows that it's a sad story.
It's fantastic. You're like 1/216,000th of this place? Mine.
Diamond ads, baby. Let's go.
Diamond hands. All right. Our final question is a more mechanical one. It is also to Sam's character, Irish Gambino, because you're an alchemist, but we didn't exactly talk about specifically like what you've got at your belt. And I'd like you to have a better sense of like what you can use so that you know when you can use it instead of like me saying, oh, maybe you could shoehorn this into, yeah. 4 specialty options. You could specialize in powerful healing salves and medicinal elixirs with ingredients from the Gainsman Thief. 2, you could use powerful poisons and acids so that you can use them with your razoring blade. 3, you specialize in explosive and concussive substances for more area damage. Or D, you specialize in strange elixirs altering one's perception of particular interest to the siblinghood.
Altering one's perception? Like, what does that mean?
Hallucinogenics, primarily. The siblinghood pay extremely well for them because the same ones don't work anymore. Or whichever ones do, they're too rare to just like find in a post-apocalypse world to just like synthesize like DMT or like psilocybin or something. And so the siblinghood, I believe Jeff is actually has joined the siblinghood. And is a follower of the oracular way, which means he occasionally has brief glimpses of the future. Powers like that are still unexplained and seemingly unexplainable, by the way, that just like it doesn't seem like being 4 inches tall means time works differently or causality or something. So that is one of the many mysteries of this world, which for so many reasons suddenly seems so much bigger than it once did. Eh? So yeah, those are the four. Are you a healer, poisoner, bomb maker in a video game? We're gonna get banned. Or do you create hallucinogenics that sell really well?
I'll create hallucinogenics, but I'll also use them as blade oils.
Oh, that's a fun. There's your luck point. That's great. All right, perfect. Those are the individual questions about your backstories. Now just general questions for the whole group, so anyone hop in if you have an idea about your character specifically. First of all, you all belong to a shared faction. You are warriors who are employed by or like swear fealty to the Orchard, one of the lowland fiefs. What brought your characters to the Orchard is the first question. Why did your characters swear fealty here? At some point years ago, people were asked to sort of bend the knee to one faction or the other one, and that would determine where they slept and where they lived, and who determined like the sort of class-based system that would roll in over time later, based on who had access to like exploitable resources. But yeah, for some reason, your characters swore fealty to the Orchard. Was it because, and there are a couple preset options, but feel free to come up with your own. Was it the faction's technological capabilities and the promise of the eventual return of electricity and modern technology? Was it B, Duke Belmer's egalitarian approach to nobility and social mobility that caused your character to think like, oh, this guy is like less corrupt or like better at sharing wealth and power and resources than other factions? Or C, was it simply the most politically advantageous move at the time because it's where you had connections and you feel no real like loyalty to this faction? Those are the three preset options. If you have your own options, feel free to come up with them. Anyone have an idea right off the bat?
Yeah, so for Gambino, it's definitely going to be the return of technology and electricity.
Right on. You, it's like Dune. You and this charismatic leader had a shared vision for the future of the world, and and so you're Kynes or whatever. Planetologist Kynes. Yeah, I got that right. Miles, you were saying something. What do you have a?
I would probably say Marco, definitely. I probably would have gone along with Jeff a little bit because I remember we said we were like at least a little bit tied. Or did we get tied once we both joined? Did we decide?
You could go either way on that one.
After. It's going to be after.
Right
This is where we met, inside. So it'd probably just be the most advantageous. He came to me with an offer and would have been like, hey, come join me and better tournament odds or something along those lines. Just slightly more advantageous in the moment.
Absolutely. Duke Belmer did need a fantastic archer, and the Orchard is a great place to come to like train as a warrior. Most people would go to the Gainsman, which is another one of the lowland fiefs, but their primary export is nutritional supplements and powders and that kind of thing that are excellent for filling out your diet, especially with a lot of protein. And so the Gainsmen provide the greatest warriors and mercenaries in from all the territories. But the Orchard has had a long-standing agreement with the Gainsmen, just a trade agreement, basically. The Gainsmen get to use like electronic weaponry and devices and stuff that High Architect Pryor has whipped up, and they keep sending the Orchard their supplies, their nutritional supplies that are an excellent source of protein and all of that. which protein is a little hard to find in a world where you don't have like refrigeration, and you certainly can't just go around killing big meat animals. Like, no one's taken down a cow. That would be insane. So meat, eggs, cheese, none of those are really available to you unless you include rat milk. But for the most part, the Gainsmen provide the best source of like renewable protein. But we don't have to go into all that, all the nutritional details of being very, very small. Jeff, what is your what was your reason for swearing fealty to the orchard?
I think, rather than it being something I chose, I feel like I was running away from somewhere else nearby and kind of just hung out like on the DL until people just assumed I was supposed to be there the whole time.
Right on. Now, how up in the air do you want to leave that? Do you want it to just be like any faction and I get to decide for plot later? Or do you have,
Yes.
you've heard a bunch of factions so far. So if you have a specific, like if you're running from one of the high courts, like the Caesarate or something, then if you have a specific answer on that, we can roll with that. But if you want to leave it up to plot, I'll use it.
I'll leave it up to plot, and I'll say that Jeff doesn't really care about talking about the old world. He never really got the whole ban on it, but he definitely never talks about where he came from before he ended up in the orchard.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Yeah, and we can blitz through these because there's still a handful left. But not only do you each have some form of loyalty to the orchard, but clearly the Duke considered you his top lieutenants because he brought you with him as guards and on a diplomatic mission. So yeah, that loyalty goes both ways. Why does the orchard or Duke Belmer personally, who's now dead, of course, but why did Duke Belmer trust and believe in each of you? Did you have extraordinary skill in combat or tactics? Did you have a particular, or was there a particular like event or circumstance in which you proved yourself to him? Or did you gain the position primarily due to political posturing?
Yeah, I'll definitely say, Marco, probably just makes sense. I shoot a bow really well. He likes that.
Right on.
Should I be like handpicked? Could he like come out to like grab me specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since it sounds like you were chosen like by the orchard because of your ability with the floss bow.
Sick.
Right on. Jeff and Gambino, you guys have any ideas of why the orchard feels a particular, or why the Duke felt a particular loyalty to or belief in you? We can totally come back to it as well.
Yeah, we might have to.
Yeah, absolutely. The next question. Funny that you brought up, Hayden, the like Jeff's opinion on like not talking about the old world. Because different people have, or in the Brooklands, have different levels of belief in the Oath of the Dawn, ranging from Healer Irelda's theory that it is a shared delusion to avoid taking responsibility for one's own actions, to Queen Renee's belief that it is divinely inspired and altogether necessary, to Duke Belmer's belief, or the late Duke Belmer's belief, that it is simply a tool to help people cope, which a few use unnecessarily to gain political control, but other than that is largely harmless. How does your character feel about the Oath of the Dawn? With a couple options, because you don't have to like fully generate your own opinion here necessarily. Option number one, it is absolutely necessary in order to prevent the problems of the old world from destroying the new world. Because that it's a common belief that whatever caused the event and the dawn to happen was something about the old world, and it's better to, and that it's better to start over from scratch rather than to just repeat the problems of the old world. Second option, it is completely ridiculous, and your character either considers themselves a modernist, or avoids that particular label, but essentially just holds the belief of modernism without referring to themselves as one. Um, 3, it is the nature of the current world, and to fight against it is pointless. 4, it's a helpful delusion for people to cope with the horrors of the new world. Or, oh yeah, no, that's good. 4 options, preset options if you just want to choose one of those, or if you have a very advanced personal opinion about it, then go ahead. But we can start with Hayden. You were saying that Jeff's approach is that you don't really get the purpose of it.
Yeah, I think, and he definitely does hear the argument of like it's a useful tool to cope with, like maybe we did this to ourselves. And Jeff's personal belief on that, like to counter that argument, is like scientifically, that's a very human-centric way to think about the world. Like, of all of the causes, like some bad societal quirks, even the worst of them, he has a hard time believing that there's a one-to-one between that and all of a sudden everybody is 4 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't really get that like almost religious, like if we do this, we will never be shrunk again kind of argument. But he does see the merit of like, this is a weird thing. And if coming up with a new name and a new identity is helpful in moving forward, more power to you. Jeff is still Jeff. I think it's because he's kind of had to deal with his demons already. Like he's already gone through that like world shift once in his life and has kind of gotten used to having to do it. So he understands that everybody kind of needs to cope in their own way. But he doesn't care so much about whether or not we talk about was The Witcher a good show or not. So.
Right on. Marco and Gambino, do you guys have an idea of what your character's approach to the Oath of the Dawn would be?
Yeah, Gambino likes to play video games, but he doesn't so much like to live in them. So he is wanting to go back to the way things were.
Mm-hmm.
So a modernist, I guess.
Gotcha. And Marco?
Yeah, in terms of like talking about it, I am super just what I have no opinion 100%. It's just what makes people comfortable around me. People will go and start talking about before, and if I see other people getting uncomfortable, I'm like a lot more vocal about, hey, we're not supposed to talk about that. But otherwise, it's like if it was just me and like Jeff in a room talking about it, I'd be a lot more open. But I'm a lot more like scared for the propriety's sake of it.
Gotcha. Right on.
One quick question.
Mm-hmm.
In the Orchard in general, are they a little bit more lackadaisical about talking about the old world than other
Yes.
kingdoms?
So there was a year or two in which modernism was was actually outlawed and punishable by death in the Great Kingdoms, because and a large part of that was there kept being like potentially coincidental but potentially causal every time like a modernist would like hold they send out criers all the time to like talk to people about this and try and bring them back to their senses. But every time there was like one of those propaganda events where they were shouting out like modernist stuff, the power would start to fail in the Brooklands. And like when the sky flickers, when you start saying stuff, people start to go, hey, I don't know if we're all on board with the God thing anymore, but it kind of sounds like God hates what you've got going on. It sounds like he hates what you're saying, and it's time for you to stop. Uh, so, yeah, there were a couple years where it was punishable by death. More recently, it's more punishable by exile. Like, we just don't want you here, get out. Especially in the Pennylands, where Queen Penny of House Eldon has a history of like executing people for that kind of thing, even though it's technically not a sanctioned act by the high courts anymore. But yeah, you're not supposed to kill modernists anymore. But the Orchard has declared like what is basically like safe passage, not safe passage, but amnesty. Is it amnesty that I'm looking for? Yeah, they're accepting modernist refugees, basically. And so many have come to the Orchard because of that, that it's basically like half modernists at this point. So yeah, excellent question. Next question. In fact, I'm just going to throw a couple out. You guys give any answers that you have because they're not all required, and we can get to some action soon. But what makes your character a badass? What does your character want for the future of the Brooklands? What does your character want for their own future? And what is something that your character would die for? Anything that sticks out to you guys? Or the earlier question about why Duke Belmer considered each of you among his top lieutenants. But yeah, your thoughts on those subjects.
All right, I'm going for it.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want for my future? I wanna be a ruler. I want to be top dog somewhere. I want crown on the head. Like that's the dream. That's the aspiration. What do I want for like the future of the realm itself? No plans. Literally no clue.
He wants to be in the room where it happens.
That's something that I assume I will learn as we go, but the character itself, not even for a moment has they considered that as part of something that they would need to think about. What makes me a badass?
Yeah.
But yeah, what makes me badass would probably be like obviously I've said it like 30 times. Just the fact that I can shoot something with a bow and arrow.
Uh-huh.
Can I have like is acquiring a skill like is that a badass thing? Is that something I can just shoehorn into my character? That I have like slightly okay ability to pick up a skill?
Sure. You're the youngest person here. There's a lot of neuroplasticity. You're the youngest
There you
character,
go.
I mean. You might also be the youngest person here. I haven't checked.
Fair enough.
But yeah, excellent archer. I'm so glad there's finally a character with political ambitions. Because sometimes D&D parties feel like we need to save the world, so it's a good thing there's a bunch of special mushrooms lining the path there, and a bunch of people who belong to the race that you want to genocide for some reason, and it's getting all the different characters like goals and being like, that's that way, go that way. I'm glad to have a character who's just like, I want the crown. It's time. Right on. Next.
I think Jeff's ambition is that Marco gets that crown.
Do you see greatness in me? Do you think I do? Great cake?
Yeah, I totally do. And I think that in between, maybe Jeff will slip in like, also you should start thinking about some policies because that's going to come up eventually.
I know when I see it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But yeah. So I think that's how our relationship kind of is going. I mean, I hate to do the same character as I did, but maybe just playing a little bit of PR behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's a good I shouldn't reference Game of Thrones like 4 times an episode, but it is a good like there's a young upstart who like wants to be a ruler and shows like a lot of promise. They have to end up surrounded by people who are like, this person should be ruler, and I will fight for that to happen. Yeah,
That's me.
love it, fantastic. Gambino.
What would Gambino die for? I think he would die before seeing Marco throne.
Oh, that's awesome.
It couldn't be better.
What makes him a badass is he does that hallucinogen thing, which is a lucrative business, and uses a lot of the money on protein-filled substances and works out like a fiend. So he is
Yes. Irish Gambino
Nice.
is a jacked StarCraft esports pro.
yeah.
Now we've got the lore. Fantastic. Yeah. If you guys want to keep going, I am very curious about Jeff and Marco, what you would die for. But also, if it's nothing, then that's a valid character too. I feel like we've played a lot of kind of very cynical characters so far who are kind of like, I see this thing that this culture does, and I just completely like back away from that. I guess maybe not so much in the first campaign, but if there's anything your character would die for, that would be that's a strong brush with which to kind of paint the outlines of your character and where they're at. So
Can I say Marco is like super like headstrong, like he's just so, I'm trying to make him like comically immature and skilled.
yeah,
At the same
you're trying to be the next Hokage. You are
Yeah,
every
straight
shonen
up.
protagonist.
Yeah.
You're like, what am I good at? Training. what do I want? To be the best.
It's a character I've never even tried to make before. This is gonna be fun for me. But I want the thing I would die for is nothing but because Marco is afraid of death in its entirety. Like so perfectly mortified. He could not even consider doing an action if it meant like there was a good chance he would come out dead at the end. If it was like him or someone else, it would have to be someone else 99 times out of 10. Like cannot die. That is the truest of fears.
Yep. And I think that makes a lot of sense what kind of like combat Marco ended up specializing in. The idea that like you went outside to this like crazy Badlands area and copied a way to run away or make enemies unable to attack you, and you're best at attacking enemies well out of the range of like where they could attack you.
Exactly.
Right on. I think that makes a lot of sense. In fact, luck point.
Let's go.
Let's go. I'm trusting you guys to keep track of your own luck points and not just like lie to me about how many rerolls you have. We have it
It's
on
all being
video.
recorded.
Yeah. Jack James will send me an email. I was watching season 3 or episode 3. All right. Any other character notes before we jump back into real time?
Yeah, Jeff would die if there was even a slight chance that global embiggenment could be real. Like that's what
Can you
he's all
describe what
about.
you mean about that? Can
Yeah.
you describe that to me?
If there was a chance, if he was like, so imagine that the cure to all of this like shrinking like for all of the humans was like at the bottom of, you know, that scene in the 6th Harry Potter where Dumbledore has to drink the water to get to the Horcrux at the bottom? Like if that Horcrux was the cure, like Jeff would be there with like a jumbo straw, just like, let's do this. Like, I don't care. Just get society back to what it was, and let's just try and get back to what normal used to be. Because That's all he cares about.
I love that. In fact, can I tell you why that's a great character note? Because Jeff has like a bunch of a bunch of attributes that are like, he's not really buying into this whole like medieval shtick, and like he's here to protect someone he cares about, and he's very like disconnected from a lot of like what's happening in the setting. Which for a political thriller is like hard to write that character in, or I say political thriller. There's political intrigue. It's an epic fantasy kind of, but the idea that you want people to be everywhere to be able to achieve embiggenment. That ties in a character attribute that doesn't match Jeff at all, which is like he's got like a southern drawl, and he's like not really buying into this whole medieval thing, and he just wants to protect one person. And so it's kind of weird that he like joined an occultists guild that are studying the weirding way. They're studying like strange magics and doing hallucinogens. It doesn't feel like Jeff's scene, but the idea that the siblinghood is really focused on like helping people achieve embiggenment, I think adds a lot to the reasons that would be part of Jeff's backstory, because without that component, there isn't really a connection there. So while I hate to stack up all the luck points, third luck point. What?
He's got a porcelain face.
That's true. Yeah.
Another weird character.
I forget you have a weird face.
Yeah. And I imagine it's like porcelain, but it's like the porcelain face of a 65-year-old man.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, that's much worse.
I have no idea what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very finely detailed. You have like facial attributes and everything. But it's very smooth and clean.
Porcelain wrinkles somehow. Like
I didn't
Wait, do they age?
He hasn't so far. I didn't bring it up in the intro sequence because it was going to sound like a power leveling situation. Don't post cursed images of of porcelain dolls to the Discord. Now I have to show my Discord window. No. Let's see. But yeah, so third luck point to you. That's fantastic. These porcelain dolls are extremely cursed. Something I didn't want to bring up because it would seem too min-maxy. With your porcelain skin, you actually don't take elemental damage. So like the mint and cinnamon of the flavored toothpicks, or like the acidic power of like citrus juices, doesn't affect you nearly as much. Yeah. Stop this madness. I have to switch channels. All right. Right on. Any other character notes before we hop back in? I'm loving it so far.
How long have we all been in this like guild? What'd you call it?
The Orchard?
Yeah.
Yeah. How
long have we all been in the Orchard? And you said it was the four of us, we abandoned our friend. Rest in peace.
Oh yeah. She was nowhere to be seen after the gibbeting platform was blasted apart, and there's no telling how long it could have taken to find her in like the stampeding crowd. But yes, Jenna is left behind and presumably dead, either in the siege or from the city guards. It's also worth noting, it takes a long time to like blast down a whole kingdom. So either the siege is still happening or it's done all the damage that it's going to do. Sieges usually last for a long time, but yeah, who knows at this scale. So,
and what was Jenna good at?
She just drove the caravan. Yeah, she's not really like a permanent part of your retinue. She was just like part of the Duke's entourage, and so she was being executed despite having done nothing wrong.
Okay, so we were like the three people who were actually like good at something. Like we were like the three like legit boys, and she was just the dude who drove the car.
Yeah, you are the honor guard to Duke Belmer, which means by right of inheritance now you are sworn bodyguards or sworn honor guard to Duke Illyrio, even though Illyrio probably doesn't know he's a duke yet, or that his husband is dead. So, big L, nerd. Watch too much Twitch now. But yeah, we can hop back into into the game, into the scene. Unless there's any other character details. Sweet. You three, Lord Arbel and his companion, whose name you have yet to catch, must set a watch for the night. You have enough spare cloth to prepare a makeshift shelter for all of you to stay inside of, but being on the road at night is far from safe, and you ought to set a watch of 1 or 2 people at a time. So who takes the first shift? Or do you make someone else take the first shift? Right on. Jeff, do you bring anyone with you for the first shift?
How many people do we need to have for like the first shift?
You only need
I guess how many shifts do we need?
Traditionally, it's broken up into 3 shifts, but you can break it up however you want. There's no hard and fast rule. But with 3, everyone gets enough sleep over the 12 hours that the lights are off. But yeah, if it's just Jeff, it's just Jeff.
Yeah.
Good luck, Jeff.
Take the first.
Right on. You guys settle in, get to sleep, except for Jeff, who stays up for the first watch. You don't use the torch that the Architects Guild gave you because it's unsafe to do so at night. It's basically signaling to bandits or even wildlife, like, hey, just party over. There's just a group of people over here, in case you wanted to rob them. So Jeff does the smart thing and waits for his eyes to adjust to the darkness. But even in the early hours of night, you soon begin to hear a clanking and a skittering around you. Roll me a quick perception check. It's just a flat D20. That is high enough. You identify the now familiar sounds of courier mice. This is a whole flock of them. They tend to, when they run into one another on the way to wherever they're traveling, like bunch up together for body heat or just like pack tactics, or you're not sure the exact animal psychology behind it, but they occasionally like group together. And this group is big. It's like 30 courier mice come flooding down the sort of ramped steps that you guys used to get to this middle partition where the staircase like turns around. You're on that platform, and you're camping against one corner of it with that cloth pulled in like a 90-degree lean-to. Yeah, you consider waking the others, and then you hear that it's just the courier mice. But in response to the clacking, you hear the wing beats that you heard earlier coming from something seemingly perched like under the platform that you're on. You weren't sure earlier because all you heard was like the frantic wing beats, but you identify that it is not the wing beats of a bat, like the leathery flapping. It is almost silent, in fact, and must be a feathered bird instead. Because Jeff is the one who's awake during this first watch, Jeff, right after hearing this sound, you the vision begins, or your vision begins to blur around the edges in a way now familiar to you. You're receiving insight about the future. And your vision starts to double as everything kind of splits out of focus around you. You know from experience that if you were to wake up one of your companions, they would see that one of your eyes is now turning to a cloudy shade of some color. Your vision turns gradually red, which tells you 2 things. The shade and color will identify what kind of vision this is. And while you can still see the world around you with your left eye, meaning you're still able to tell if anyone's sneaking up on you, you begin to see and hear a potential timeline with your right eye and your left ear. It's very disconcerting, but you are now accustomed to it. And from the hue and color of your second vision, you can tell that this is a vision of a pending danger, and that it is as close by in terms of like time or length of time as a vision can get, which means this is warning you of an imminent danger. You see the swooping figure in your dark red vision of a winged bird descending on you and your party. You're pretty sure that that thing is going to attack, not immediately, but in the next couple of hours. Also, it attacking at night tells you something about what this bird is. It's most likely an owl, because it is nocturnal, and judging by like the size that it would have to be to get here, you're gonna guess an owl. But normally owls don't make that much sound, so it may have an injured wing or a torn feather or some such. Yeah, so you have that vision, but then soon your vision focuses back up, no longer has that tint of dark red, and your perception skill is at full again, basically. So yeah, so far it's still quiet, but that event that you saw could happen soon.
Okay. How much does Jeff know about? Well, I guess owls being nocturnal predators, they basically have dark vision, right? Like,
yes.
Okay. Would Jeff know if the flashlight or the electric torch would be effective in blinding it if he were to like turn it on while it was swooping, or would it just be able to see us even better and just snatch us up?
I believe, yeah. So because you are not close to any windows, and Eastbrook Mall had like concerningly few windows for no apparent reason, but you are so far from outside light flooding in. Like around the corner is the fallen lands of the Blooming Dale that you'll have to travel through soon. But it's structurally it's been destroyed by that fire that was just a year or so ago, and that's probably how this owl entered through like the holes left in it. And there's likely some moonlight, starlight flooding through there, but that's around a couple of corners. So you are in pretty close to absolute darkness. But yeah, the turning the light on in that absolute darkness would almost certainly work as a flashbang against this owl. I guess just the visual, so just a flash, but it would do the same for you as well. Like it's better able to see you from the beginning, because the human eye can only like adjust to so much darkness, because you guys are in advanced darkness, if you will. But yeah, you could blind the thing, but you would be blinded as well. So probably good to do during a swoop, because you don't need to see in order to like stay standing up, but it does need to see in order to not slam into the bars on the side of this railing while it's flying through the air. So that could be useful, but yeah, it would blind you just as much.
Okay. I want to go immediately and wake up Marco as soon as I finish this vision, and say, Marco, I feel bad about doing this, but we have a bit of a situation. Do you hear the owl kind of making noises? It's about to swoop. Yeah,
what?
It's about to come.
Okay, I'm gonna start like getting up. How many people are immediately sleeping with us right now?
So it's you three, Lord Arbel, and his companion. So 5 of you.
I'm definitely waking up Irish Gambino. We're like the three of us have worked together enough. It's a no-brainer. I'm gonna slap him, pick up my bow, slap him a couple of times with it, and let's get to it. Are either of us even slightly adjusted to the darkness, having been asleep? Like, can we see anything, or is it just pitch black?
You can see, you're beginning to be able to see the very vague outlines of things, but it's mostly like you notice right before you're about to bump into someone or something, and not really like, hey, that there's like something on that surface, or like, yeah.
Do you know if we're close to the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are against the wall of the it's 90 degrees. You're against the wall of like the platform where the staircase turns around. And that platform is like hovering, like there are walls of like the hallway that you're descending down into further out, because the stairway is like in the middle of the just like marble flooring between floors. So this yeah.
Am I able to like twine run up the walls? I guess I don't really know a whole lot about like how twine running works. Can I just like throw some twine and then run on it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Think of it a little bit like Spider-Man, but if it's not sticky, so it's got to like wrap around something, but you're very good at like whipping distant things. So maybe think of it more like Link's grapple shot.
Can I like hook him up to an arrow and shoot it at a wall?
Absolutely, you can do that.
Done. I'm gonna shoot it up as high as I can, and start. I'm gonna like wrap it around, start rappelling upwards.
Right on. Yeah. In an effort to get the high ground, you shoot up onto the railing. You're experienced enough with a bow connected to like the floss coming from your belt that you can shoot it and then know exactly when to pull so that it like stops the arrow's motion, so it falls, and then you pull, and so it whips around like the edge of that thing and tucks under, so that you pull on it and it will support your weight, and you begin to climb up to the top of this thing. It is quite a journey, and about halfway up it, you feel a very gentle like movement in the currents of the air, something that only an archer is trained to notice. You hear...
I'm going to stop halfway through.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, you stop, and in the distance, only your extremely well-trained eyes see. Just like it took special training for you to even notice the change in the wind currents, which, because you are so far inside of the mall, can only be caused by something big moving around. It also takes your special training, your sharp archer's eyes, to notice a giant form perch right next to your floss and arrow thing, and like take a little hopping bird step towards it and look down at the arrow wrapped around the floss.
Ruh-roh, Raggy. Not stoked about that. What do you think, Irish Gambino? You got some potions for me to shoot at this bird?
I don't think you want Irish Gambinos.
You think that would help?
Oh man! All right. What's the plan? Do we got a plan here, guys?
It is to be noted that you have actually fought birds before. It's rare that wildlife finds its way deep into the Brooklands, but especially in this region, the burned region of the Blooming Dale, wildlife are extremely prevalent, and they constantly need what is essentially like monster hunters for hire to kill these enormous beasts that just wander in and and attack the local population.
All right, I've got a plan.
Mm.
I don't know if this is possible. How much floss do I got?
You have a full spool, and so I'm actually gonna look up
How many like
spool.
feet is it a spool?
Oh, this is showing me weird spools of floss. Hold on. I know I can find this. Amazon link. Okay, the boxes are 55 yards. But you've got like one of the smaller things, so I'm gonna ballpark, even if it's like a fifth of the size, 11 yards, 33 feet. Or I guess 11 times 18. So that's like 200 yards. You got 2 football fields in your equivalent like distance. You got 2 football fields worth of floss, enough to fully tie down a large bird. Just as an example of a thing that you could do with that length of floss.
So here's kind of what I'm wanting to accomplish. I'm wanting to get 2, like if I can, I know the bird's like right above. If I can shoot one off to like the side even, but I want to get a second anchor onto the railing. And if I can, I want to shoot 2, like tie them to the other sets of floss. I want to shoot 2 more around its, like at least one of its feet to anchor him to the top of the railing.
Okay, so to be clear, you're shooting a second one to the opposite railing so that you have like a tightrope running across these, and then
no, like one at the top and then one next to it. I'm just trying to anchor it. Like if this is just the railing, I've got one here already. I'm looking to get another one close, but I know that sending it up to the bird that's already there isn't going to be as successful. I'm looking to put one a little bit off to the right if I can like run to the side of the wall. Get another one up there. I just want to get 2 on this railing, tie the ends of the rope, like the one that I'm holding on to, and then the other one, tie them to 2 more arrows, and shoot them at the bird's feet, hoping to wrap them around its feet to keep it from being able to swoop down on us.
So you just want a second anchor point so that you're triangulating the bird with the third thing. Okay, you can do that. What you definitely can't do is fire two like floss toothpicks at once.
Yeah. No, just like one and then one.
Okay, sweet. Yes, there is a small problem in that there's only one end of the floss that's like coming out of your belt. So when you shoot it, it's like actively pulling it out of your belt. So the second anchor that you point, are you cutting the floss, shooting it, and then tying those together? Or are you maybe connecting like just a pinch in it to the second one so that it's got like 2 strings coming off of it?
I guess I imagined cutting it, so I guess I'll say cutting it.
Right on. Sweet. Yeah, you cut the floss, set that second anchor point, at which point the owl goes like, and starts like getting closer to it. And as you tie the 2 anchor points together so that they reinforce one another, to your horror, the owl just starts pecking at your like first floss one that was wrapped around, and it just starts like it's trying to bite it or like eat it or something, and the whole thing that you're hanging from starts to shake up and down because this is how you're being suspended in the air. You are next
to like
one of the
or hear
enormous,
any of this
like bars. You don't hear it immediately. You probably hear like a ting ting ting, but it kind of sounds like just like when his toothpick arrows hit it. So there's no sign to you guys from the bottom that there's anything wrong yet, unless Marco.
Do we have signals? Hey, do we have signals? The 3 of us? I assume we'd have a signal, right?
Like a hand signal?
No. Like a sound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like a whistle, like a banging, like 4 bangs means get out of here, 2 bangs means I need reinforcements, stuff like that.
Sure,
we'd have something like that, right?
Very common. I think it's reasonable to say that you have some kind of pseudo Morse code with which to communicate. Are you banging against the like big bar to your right or to?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna start smacking the heck out of that. Like, help!
All right. Let me get a perception check from each of you, Jeff and Gambino, to see if you hear this as he's being like bobbed up and down to just Jeff's ears pick out the dun, 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 as you're being like pulled up and down, just trying to signal this. You're not sure exactly what's happening, but it does sound like he's in trouble.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. But on the other hand, I don't know what we can do from down here.
Yeah, I'm gonna repel. Can I repel as quickly as possible?
Absolutely, yeah. Roll me a speed check. Get to the bottom before this owl picks at too much at your supports. I'm gonna say you have a +4 to this. I'll add it. A 9 is unfortunately still not enough. So as you begin to like throw Floss out of this, accelerating yourself like almost to, I mean not almost to terminal velocity, because 9.8 meters per second squared is a lot more when you're very small. Yeah, think about that. But you start to repel as you're being bobbed, and there's this huge distance. But soon the toothpick is like pulled free, and it starts to whip around at the top as the floss that you're on falls at a rapid pace. You start to flail wildly, but are suddenly pulled tight as that second anchor you put up. It's like when one anchor pulls out with anchor climbing, and you swing violently from the second one, slamming into one of the like vertical like bars on this thing. You guys definitely hear that, and you see the vague shape of Marco, maybe like 20 inches off the ground, just rotating violently as he bounces off of this thing. You are still conscious.
Marco, are you okay?
No, it's not. This isn't good for me. I'm not having fun anymore.
Come on down quick now.
He's like calling me in for supper. I'm coming as quick as I can.
From far above you, you hear ping, ping, ping.
Okay, I'm gonna see, and I'll pull out a coin, and I'll just be like, I don't know what this is gonna do, and I just throw it up to try and hit like one of the bars. Like I don't think I'm gonna be able to hit it all the way up, but
yeah, but you might be able to scare it off or something. Yeah,
somewhere. Yeah.
Right on. Roll me a coin throwing check, which means add a +4 to it. Basically just like an attack check. See if you knock one of the
21
with an excellent roll. Jeff not only manages to chuck that coin. Which kind of coin do you use, by the way? What denomination
quarter
coin? Right on. Chucks this quarter. Just E pluribus unum and an eagle whipping through the air. And makes hard contact with the top bar. In fact, you hear it kind of muted, and it's not until you hear the deep hooty growl of the owl that you realize that you didn't just hit the bar, you actually hit the bottom of its talon that was gripped around it. The noise is a reminder to you of the difference in scale from the old world, where since your bodies have been shrunken down like proportionally, your voice boxes and your ears both hear things at like much higher frequencies. But when a normal sized animal that hasn't been shrunk down makes noises like that, they sound much, much deeper just because of the scale that you're working at. So rats growl like you know that lions used to. And this what appears to be a barn owl doesn't make the high pitched like it sounds like dubstep. And
like a big old diesel engine up there.
Yeah, this thing takes a couple flaps up, and then you hear complete silence, which any owl nerd who read Guardians of Ga'Hoole will tell you means that it's diving into a swooping attack. Da-da-da. You only have a split second to react. What does everyone get ready? Do you like ready attacks as this thing drops towards you?
Can I try and ride it? Can I throw like a lasso and grab on and
If
fly through
anyone
the air?
could, it's the world's greatest archer / like an experienced twine runner. The twine runner skill is what's really going to help here. You can absolutely give it a try. And I do love how every animal in every like D&D kind of thing just has like a 2% chance that it's going to be tamed. That's honestly my dream for all my campaigns, is that any animal, I want you to think to yourself, can I tame that? Can I ride that?
Can I use a luck die for this roll?
You had better, honestly. Yeah. Roll me a twine running check.
I rolled a 9 plus whatever skill you would want, or if I add anything to it, I just rolled a 9. Do I roll another d20 for the luck check? Or the luck dice?
Yes. Yeah. You can re-roll it with the luck die. And it will be a +4 because of your twine running skill.
Let's go. Unnatural 20.
With a 20, you actually really do manage to whip like what is essentially a floss lasso around this thing's neck. What you didn't think about was that you weigh so much less than this, that this is less inconvenient for the owl than it is for you. So you have two choices.
I cut ties to the wall. I cut ties to the wall immediately. If I'm getting pulled, I'm not gonna get ripped in half here.
Oh, okay. So you're cutting off the anchor point so that you're now being pulled along. Yeah, that's right. You're in the air, so you really are lassoing downward onto this
wall.
What?
What if you tethered the owl to the wall?
I mean, like, I'm the joining point there, aren't I? I don't know if I can.
Too late. You cut yourself free from the anchor point, and now instead of you being pulled and then there's like an anchor that's also going to be pulled, and presumably then the owl would like choke to death as it guillotines itself. Now instead you are both falling, or you are falling until this thing pulls taut and then will presumably whip you into the sky. It is unclear whether you will survive such a thing, so I'm going to say you have a few options. You can cut ties. You can shoot another arrow to try and get the other end of the floss wrapped around like a bar instead of wrapped around yourself, and hope that you just like leash an owl to this thing, but you will still drop what is the equivalent of 30 feet into the ground. C, you can cut ties with the owl. That might be B. You could cut ties with the owl and then do that same kind of thing, but hope that it holds your weight and kind of Indiana Jones to safety. Or you could hold on, and it will be a very high DC strength check. Sorry, DC is how high you need to roll. That's D&D terminology. That's going to get copyright sued or something. I'm kidding. I don't think you can copyright something that... you could or maybe you could like whip yourself up like a harness, like wrap it around you at like your hips and then like further up so that it's not all just on your shoulders as you are yanked into the sky. What's your approach to this?
If I can tie one to the actual thing itself, it'd probably be smartest to try and just leash it, right? Right, guys? It's probably smartest to try and just hook it to a wall, right?
I will say that's the most likely to kill it and the least likely to get you an owl mount. However that affects your judgment.
Hear me out. What if I just shot like a bunch more floss around it to try and just like, stop it from being able to fly anymore, and then I just hope to land on its back when it eventually hits the ground. That's a nice soft landing, right? You couldn't get softer than that.
It is swooping downwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just like kind of waiting?
It is swooping down towards the two of you now. Presumably it doesn't intend to like stick the landing. Presumably it intends to like swoop back up.
All
What's your
right, I guess
approach?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try for the leash. I'm gonna try for the leash.
Right on. So, to be clear, you're holding on to it?
Uh, yeah,
Right on. So,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, do I just roll a d20 for that?
Yes, just a moment. What you don't need to roll for at all is, first of all, you disconnect yourself from the anchor point and you begin to be pulled downwards into this thing's swoop, which does two things. First of all, it accelerates your fall, which is bad news, but the owl is beginning to swoop upwards. So your hope is that it will create more than 30 feet of distance, or more than 20 inches of distance between itself and the ground before you fall to the ground. Because if it flies up fast enough, then it will pull you into a swing after it instead of you hitting the ground and then being yanked into the air.
A much worse option.
Incredibly. But the great news is this thing has to pull out of its swoop as the floss the floss noose is pulled tight around it, which means your companions are safe from this attack either way. Now you are pulled down, and roll me a strength check. Yeah, to hold on to this. Yeah, without your shoulders being pulled out of your sockets.
All right, here we go. That wasn't what I was looking for.
I do feel compelled to remind you, there is great danger in this roll. There's not peril. I'm not going to kill you on just like a single failed roll, but it's bad news if you fail this strength roll.
Okay. Feeling the fact that I'm like not doing a good job at holding on. Is there any way I can like I guess tie myself to? You said I could like tie it around my waist.
Yes.
Can I switch? Do I need to use my other luck dice to switch to tie this around my waist instead of just like trusting I can hold on?
Oh, like you're re-rolling, but you're choosing like a different approach. Instead of re-rolling a strength check, you're re-rolling like tying a harness instead. Yeah, I'll allow it. Roll to tie yourself a harness as this thing is slowly being pulled taut during the swoop.
19.
Ooh, a 19 with your twine runner bonus means a 23. You quickly throw the floss like back, catch it under your waist, up over or like over your other side of the back, and then wrap it around so that you are in like an X, and then you pull the like pressure points for all of those tight into one so that you're holding it so that it'll primarily be like how you're holding it, but then there's a loop under each of your knees and like around each of your shoulders, and you are pulled forward like you're tied to a full body harness and like attached to a train as it accelerated. You are pulled downwards towards the ground, and then Herculean, you muscle up to like pull into the swing, and your feet skid along the ground as you are pulled up into this thing's like swooping back up. It doesn't look like it's immediately going to land. It just pulls up and then over rotates because your weight on its neck causes it to like flounder into a backflip, and so when it does this, it ends up like accelerating itself downwards, and you have this surreal moment where you are being pulled upwards, and the owl is like falling back down like a plane that's stalled, and you are whipped back around towards it. But you actually have tied it so that now you are in the harness, but both of your hands are free to like shoot anything or like whip anything. Miraculously, you seem to be on your way to stop like grounding this bird without killing it. It does seem to be choking a wee bit, but it's not like dying immediately. What's your approach? As this thing flusters to try and like stop itself from hitting the ground, you are now both falling.
How high up am I?
Ooh, 4 feet, which is the equivalent of 72
frickin'
feet
lot.
in the sky. Yes. It's worth noting, again, because of the square cube law that we talked about last time, just like an ant can actually survive a fall from a countertop, you have much greater ability to survive like a fall proportional to yourself. You're pretty sure this one would still either kill you or break all your bones. But but it's not actually like falling 72 feet in real life, which is death. I assume. Sure, there's a weird world's record. Ripley's
All right.
Believe It or Not.
Is an arrow able to hold like my weight, and do I think the bird's weight? Or like how many arrows would it take?
It's mostly the floss doing the whole thing. Unless you're like sticking the arrow into something soft. If you're shooting an arrow with floss attached to it,
I don't have time to like wrap it. I have to just shoot it into something.
There's nothing here soft enough that a fast toothpick could puncture it. Except maybe an owl. Not a great anchor point. It's a closed system, so it can't really... You've made you and the owl a closed system in the physics diagram. So it's... Any ideas
Jeff,
from the ground, by the way?
Jeff,
You guys
Irish
can barely
Gambino,
tell
I
what's
need
happening.
help.
Yeah.
Okay. Do the bars go all the way to where we are at? You said there's a wall. Is it one of those just like wall and then bar?
Oh yeah, so
For the rest of
it's
the way up?
basically like a crown molding size like thing around the outside. So there's like a little taller than you of just like cement, and then above that is like the metal lattice of bars basically.
Okay.
Oh, can I just like
I
start
wanna-
shooting strings just like through that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I thought that's
will
what you meant by
try
an
and be
arrow. That
there.
you were gonna wrap it around that.
Mm-hmm. I'll be there. Say, shoot an arrow towards my voice, and I'll start wrapping them and tying them.
Done. Freaking shoot that, and then I'm gonna try and shoot a few others against the wall, I guess. See what I can wrap.
Right on. Roll me like 4 checks for just the volley of arrows you let loose as this owl flusters underneath you and tries to get the air in its wings.
I'm gonna roll 4d20. Let's go, boys! Alright, they didn't do well near the end.
Oh,
As I'm falling, it's just getting more frantic.
Oh no. Yeah, arrows go flying, but because you are not just falling, but also being moved downwards as like and your limbs are being pulled by the floss, it's everything against you just situationally. But you do have a +6 to shooting arrows because you're the best damn archer in the Brooklands. So one of those does indeed fly close enough to Jeff to freak him out a little bit. It just... So you can grab that. What are you doing with
Nailed
it?
it.
what's up?
You can grab that. What are you doing with it?
I want to grab it and jump up and like.
Can you throw it around a
Wrap it
penny
around.
and throw the penny?
Oh yeah, that's true. Where do
That'd
we
be
want to
useful.
anchor it to? Because like,
I guess, look, if I'm falling down and Bird is also falling down, and obviously that one piece of, floss is going to hold up the bird, if you can just get me in one way or the other not smacking the ground, that'd be super sick.
yeah,
Any way we
I
can
think-
make that happen.
I kiss the penny, and I wrap the floss around, and I just chuck it to try and wrap it around the top of the railing so that they do the Indiana Jones swing that you were talking about earlier.
Right on. Yeah. Make that roll with that +4 from the penny toss. With an 18, that is a
22.
total of 22. So for your second spot-on quarter toss of the day, you quickly wrap the floss around. It's weird to wrap floss around just like a disc, so it has to like go across one axis and then again and again and again. Yeah, it's like trying to wrap like a very weirdly shaped present. But you eventually get it, and you like see the floss in the distance, like starting to pull as the owl gets further from it, and you chuck it up really quick, and you see just the vague shape of it in the distance as the floss is pulled tight. It whips around and just barely like crosses over the floss and tucks under to pull it tight. The thing about like having an anchor that's that strong uh, is it pulls immediately taut, and it's connected to Miles. But because
no play in the floss.
The up swoop had brought you, so you were practically at the apex of movement. So it doesn't jerk you to a halt really quickly. And because you've got that like holster surrounding you, you are basically pulled out, spread eagle. But when you are that spread out, it's the floss that's holding all the tension, not like your individual limbs. So you are like pulled out, but you aren't like yanked apart. The owl, on the other hand, was flying into the sky, and then a tight noose pulled extremely tight. And you hear a crunch, and the owl goes limp, begins to plummet. And so now you are spread out and begin to rotate downward. There's not much you can do from that position, but fortunately, the owl slams into the because it's the distance that you threw the penny. So it's like the distance from the anchor point to the ground is the distance of the floss. So this completely dead owl slaps into the like wall that's under the metal lattice, and just comes to a stop. And Miles is like wobbled around, or Marco is just wobbled around on this thing, and then you begin to like extricate yourself so that you can climb down the floss. You did not receive an owl mount, but you also did not receive your death. Trade-off.
What a trade. All right, I'm cutting the owl loose. I'm getting down one way or the other.
Right on.
Oh, man.
The great news, great source of fresh protein. So, and you know what? Feathers are very rare. And while toothpicks make an all right projectile, there's a chance that the spoils of this particular hunt could greatly benefit Marco in creating his own toothpick arrows. Or not even toothpick at all. They could be metal, but fletched with feathers. Anyways, that's where Marco's mind goes as his heart slows down to a normal human rate, and as you get to the bottom of this twine thing. The slap woke up Lord Arbel, who goes, what? And he kind of draws his short sword, but holds it like very lazily. Like, what's happening? We're fine?
I don't even tell him.
Oh, what the hell is that? Right on.
We're fine. We just had to rustle up some grub for tomorrow's breakfast. That's all. Go back to sleep.
Right. Well,
I did not mean to put myself in the middle of this. There's so many regrets.
Yeah, the Arbel looks around, and as his eyes adjust, he starts to see like the weird web of floss that's around all these different, and he looks at like the owl that was essentially hanged for its crimes, and he just goes, oh, excellent job, I suppose. And then he just walks back to the tent. Right on. The rest of the night passes very uneventfully. And you awake safely in the morning with no way to carry this the incredible spoils of this hunt. But in the distance, you see, as the lights click back on, and it takes you guys a couple minutes to adjust to the light, you see in the distance the clanking armored form of a marble knight, the first one that you've seen for this whole travel for some reason. But he is working his way up upstairs and soon arrives. You guys, you can't see his facial expression because he's actually got like a faceplate. The Marble Knights, or the Knights of the Marble Order, have like full body armor. And it took a long time to get them all outfitted that well. But since they're expected to fight off banditry and like wild animals on the Great Marble Road, they've got no choice but to basically just get stacked up. So they also have an agreement with the Gainsmen for nutritional supplements and all of that. But yeah, the Marble Knight walks up to you all, and even though you can't see their face, they look at look pointedly at the owl and then back at you guys, and they say, "Hey, you travelers need some help?" They kind of say it with like a question mark at the end of it, and look back at the owl like they're still trying to figure out how it died. And they're like, "Do you need a palanquin? I don't know."
I push Irish up. He's well liked.
Good morning, gentlemen. We could actually use your help, matter of fact, carrying the spoils of our last conflict back to the orchard. What are the odds you help us with that?
The guy clicks up his faceplate and goes, "Gambino," and you recognize him as one of the fellows that joins you on your yearly pilgrimage.
Whoa, let's go!
And his voice and accent and mannerisms having seemingly like changed a little bit, he goes, "Yeah, for sure. I'll signal to the," and he brings out that what a device that looks like one of its components is in fact that same sort of electrical torch you got from that very kind Architects Guild member who was driving by you on the Iron Road, but it has like a small shield to it, and when he opens it, you can see that it's much brighter than the one you have, and he orients it towards the distant like tower, the Marble Knight Watchtower, holds the button down to activate the power, and then flips open the flap in an order of long and short like flashes. And in the distance, you see another armored figure climb out of the tower, go into like a nearby building that looks like a stable, and indeed wakes up a rat, just a carriage rat, and begins riding towards you guys on what is essentially like the flatbed truck, just like a trailer being pulled by a rat. Moving at a pretty jaunty rat speed, the group arrives to you right after you've finished cutting all the floss off of the owl, and the two Marble Knights very helpfully assist you guys in bringing this owl up and onto this flatbed, and offer you safe passage to wherever you're going next, which the Marble Knight who knows Gambino asks, Orchard, right?
Yep. Yes.
Fantastic.
We're heading right now?
What?
Is that the plan? Orchard?
Yes. Yeah. To deliver the news to Duke Illyrio, who doesn't know he's Duke Illyrio yet. Although, given that flood of messenger mice that passed in the night, he may have received word before you arrived. It is a more efficient form of communication, after all. Yeah, there are some other small things that we can get through, but I don't want to hold you guys up. It's 8:54. You guys good to go for like another 20? No worries if not, because we normally end at 9.
Normally I would be super down. I have a final tomorrow that I probably should do a
Shoot,
little more
yeah.
studying for.
It is finals
the day
week.
comes.
Right on. Well, then that's a better place to end it than in the middle of traveling through the dangerous lands of the Blooming Dale. So we'll cut it here. We'll come back next week. Thanks for coming, both players and viewers. I'm really excited about this campaign. Excited to see you next week. I think that you guys have made some fantastic character decisions, and I feel like I'm starting to understand your characters as well this campaign as I did last campaign, and that's great news because you guys made some great characters for the 8 Worlds campaign as well. The first 8 Worlds campaign, that is. Right on.